The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All through our history and into our future, PONANT invites guests to discover their spirit of adventure with us. Our guests are curious, they want to be educated and enriched, they have a passion for exploring, and they want to appreciate the beauty of land and sea. They don't just want to see the world from a balcony, they want immersive experiences. A true, authentic expedition combined with luxury. Thank you for joining me once again to learn more about PONANT yacht cruises and luxury expeditions. My name is Julie Rogers, and I look forward to showcasing the Arctic with you today. The webinar will take a few extra minutes as I explain the ice-breaking capabilities of Le Commandant Charcot at the end of this presentation. Today, I hope to awaken your sense of wonder. The Arctic is a northern adventure to the far reaches of polar lands. The Arctic fuels the passion and dreams of all adventurers and lovers of the great outdoors. Taking an expedition to the Arctic means heading for lands that are extreme, grandiose, and far from the most popular tourist attractions. Journey to incredible, pristine landscapes, standing in the middle of a sea, where the infinite silence is only broken by the sound of drifting icebergs as they crash, splashing of breaching whales, or a sudden flight of birds. And where you might catch a glimpse, a majestic polar bear searching for food along the ice. I am often asked, is the Arctic like Antarctica? Well, the Arctic is unlike anything else on Earth. Last week we discovered the natural wonders of Antarctica, and I will send you the recorded webinar in my follow-up email if you missed it. But how can you highlight the differences between Antarctica and the Arctic to your clients? Well, firstly, there's almost 20,000 kilometres that separate the Arctic from Antarctica. Two ends of the world lying at polar opposite extremes of our planet. Although they might look similar, they present very different and unique natural wonders. When we look at satellite images of the Arctic and Antarctica, we start to understand the differences between these two regions. Antarctica on the right is a frozen continent surrounded by water, whilst the Arctic is frozen sea surrounded by continents. Once you learn this difference, everything else makes sense. Looking at Antarctica, because it is surrounded by these mighty seas, it has never been settled by humans. It has no indigenous history. Even today, the only people who live there are scientists and researchers, whilst the Arctic has many indigenous cultures dating back thousands of years, all through the continents that surround the Arctic. The geology is different. The Arctic boasts high, jagged mountains that merge intimately with the sea. Deep and wide fjords adorn themselves with ice peaks and drifting icebergs. Valleys and tundras covered in wildflowers and berries during the summer months. Now we can see why the wildlife is also different. Firstly, tundras with acres of flora for grazing animals to consume, which in turn feed land predators such as foxes and wolves. The apex land predator, of course, is the mighty polar bear. There is a much wider variety of wildlife in the Arctic compared to Antarctica. But in Antarctica, as there are no land-based predators and no history of human habitation, the wildlife have no fear. There's no need for them to hide, so they are much easier to sight. I've given you a very simplistic explanation of the differences between the Arctic and Antarctica. 1, geology. 2, people. 3, animals. All because the Arctic is a frozen sea surrounded by land, and Antarctica is frozen land surrounded by sea. Of course, as your guests explore both regions, they are offered interesting lectures by our expedition team to go into much more detail and cover so many more interesting components of these regions. So let's look at the Arctic. PONANT has 48 Arctic expeditions that explore Iceland, Spitsbergen, Canada, Alaska, and Russia. Our expedition purpose-built vessels allow us to navigate through these polar regions. And Le Commandant Charcot, the world's first luxury ice explorer, allows us to break through the ice floe all the way to the geographical North Pole. This satellite image was taken on the 6th of August 2019. And when you look at the image, you can see the ice floe in the summertime. With 48 expeditions, I can't cover them all today, so look out for the follow-up email with lots of extra information. Today we'll focus on Svalbard and Greenland. These are our two most popular Arctic expeditions. You can see Spitsbergen, we circumnavigate Spitsbergen, and with Greenland there's quite a few different choices, but this one seems to be the most popular. Both of these expeditions start with an included charter flight from Paris. So let's look at Spitsbergen first, the European Arctic. Spitsbergen is the largest and only permanently populated island of the Svalbard archipelago in northern Norway. And Longyearbyen, you can see here, is the gateway city to our polar expedition. I love this photo, it's one of my favorites. It's really cool when you're transiting between the airport and making your way to the vessel when you see this sign telling us to give way to polar bears. We certainly know we're in the right location. So you can see on the map, we navigate up to the edge of the ice floe, as well as exploring the incredible fjords and glaciers of Spitsbergen and other Svalbard islands. This particular photograph you can see here is Lily Hook Glacier. It's 22 kilometers long, 7 kilometers wide, and 8 meters high. As you've already learnt in the PONANT webinars, we have a team of expedition guides to educate and enrich your clients as we explore in small groups of 8 to 10 guests on our fleet of Zodiacs. This is the 14th of July Glacier, named after Bastille Day by Prince Albert I of Monaco. The 14th of July Glacier is a 16-kilometre long glacier, which crosses down to Crossfjorden with a total area of about 127 square kilometres. It's certainly a highlight when we explore this region. This is a photograph from 2019. It's an enormous iceberg that has been rolling around to form this unusual shape. Magdalena Bay is a stunning landscape. It's a natural inlet that features beautiful vistas that look out over mountain ranges and clear Arctic waters. Lots of excellent photo opportunities from on board the PONANT vessel. And of course, wildlife sightings, including polar bears, walruses, Arctic foxes, reindeer, bearded seals, and many, many more. You can see how still the water is. I mentioned earlier the Arctic tundra. There are 4 million reindeer in the Arctic, and they graze on the summer grass and wildflowers. In winter, they use their large antlers to dig up the snow and expose the ground for other reindeer to graze on, the frozen vegetation. Of course, it's an exceptionally exciting day when we spot polar bears. This photograph is also in Magdalena Bay, and this polar bear is feeding on a carcass. So we're watching safely from onboard the Zodiacs. And this is another photograph of watching polar bears from the Zodiacs. There's actually 2 polar bears diving under the water. They're feeding on the carcass of a beluga whale. PONANT expedition itineraries are flexible. This is a really important feature to you to point out to your clients. When we see wildlife, like this photograph, we stop and take time to just watch. We see a healthy ecosystem in operation, and the last thing we want is to rush your clients through these experiences. Whilst there are many unique birds in the Arctic, this is my favourite, the puffin bird. They breed in large colonies on coastal cliffs, nesting in crevices and amongst rocks. They're hard workers. They grow to 25 centimetres and can fly 55 kilometres per hour. They can also dive up to 200 feet into the water to fish. So this guy's been certainly busy. They catch their fish and then they race back to the cliff nests to feed their partner and their baby. The Arctic walrus is one of the most iconic marine mammals of the Arctic, thanks largely to its beautiful ivory tusks. Both males and females have tusks. On land, the walruses are slow and clumsy, but in the water, they are graceful and very fast swimmers. Seen along the edge of the ice floe are the bearded seals, a suitable name for this guy. They're quite large. The average size is 2.3 metres and they weigh 280 kilometres. An interesting fact, the bearded seals have loud singing soprano sounding voices. So it's quite bizarre when you can actually hear them amongst the ice floe. So let's talk about the sea ice north of Spitsbergen. This far north at about 80 degrees, it's not hard to imagine hopping off the ship and walking across the ice. It's only 1,000 kilometres away to the North Pole. The Arctic ice floe, a large, free-floating, flat mass of ice floating in the ocean. A floe can vary in size from small to giant, but they do differ from icebergs in their relative lack of depth. The ice floe is flat. The floe edge is where the ice that is still attached to the land, having frozen over the winter months, meets the sea. When the floe edge fractures, the ice floe floats out to sea. And this is a great photo to show that. The Arctic ice floe is also known as the line of life. It's where land-fast ice meets the open water of the Arctic Ocean. In spring and summer, it becomes one of the most dynamic ecosystems in the world. and is the only place where all Arctic marine mammals come together to coexist and to commingle. Of course, a big chance to see polar bears is along the Arctic floe. Don't you love this photograph of the baby? A couple of facts about the polar bear. Polar bears are only found in the frozen wilds of the Arctic. You already knew that they're not in Antarctica. These are seriously big bears. Adult polar bears can measure over 2.5 meters in height and weigh over 680 kilograms. Their size and weight make them the largest living carnivores on Earth. As well as their thick fur, they have a layer of fat, blubber, that insulates their bodies from the frosty air and the near freezing water. Polar bears actually have black skin under their glistening coat, which helps them soak up the sun's rays and keeps them warm. They have an incredible sense of smell, and they can sniff out prey from up to 16 kilometers away. Polar bears are excellent swimmers and have been spotted in waters over 100 kilometers offshore. The floe edge in summer also attracts some very rare wildlife events. And this could include seeing large pods of tusked narwhal whales, known as the unicorn of the sea, because of their iconic tusk. They live year-round in the Arctic and can only be seen in the wild. The male narwhal can be 5.4 meters, almost 2,000 kilograms in weight. Only the males and about 15% of females grow the tusks. My favourite whales in the Arctic are the beluga whales or the white whales, and it's popular to see them in pods along the ice floe edge. They're a smaller species of whale. Their size is about 4 to 6 meters. And belugas are one of the most vocal whales, using a vast range of sounds. They're known as the canaries of the sea. They're continually communicating, using language of clicks, whistles, and clangs. Of course, we'll see lots of humpback whales through the Arctic as well. This is my absolute favourite photograph because I think this perfectly helps us understand exactly what a PONANT expedition in the Arctic is. We have our 1C ice hull expedition purpose-built modern vessel. We have zodiacs that allow us to meander through the ice floe, and we also offer landings. And then before our very eyes, the wildlife of the Arctic. So not only do we experience the ice floe, but we also have this beautiful experiences through Spitsbergen of cruising the fjords and glaciers of the Arctic. Let's have a look at the Canadian Arctic and concentrate on magical Greenland. There are few places where primeval beauty conjures emotions of rare intensity. Greenland is a remote and otherworldly island of frozen expanses. When the ice breaks up and the granite peaks shed their white mantle for the brief Arctic summer, a contrasting world of beauty emerges. In addition to the beautiful scenery, this is where we have the opportunity to visit local communities, and we learn how they've thrived for thousands of years. They'll teach us how they blend ancient traditions with modern technology and how they use all the resources from the land to incorporate into their everyday lives. They teach us how they rely on the sea to feed them. And also we learn how they survive throughout the winters by preparing in summer. Most people are so surprised that Greenland has some of the world's stunning fjords. And on a PONANT expedition, guests can explore the fjords with the expedition guides by zodiac, kayak, and of course, hiking. Our expedition purpose-built vessels allow us to hug nice and close and have beautiful views of the glaciers. But it's not until you see this next image that we understand the sheer size and grandeur of the Greenland fjords. The expedition vessels have lots of outdoor viewing areas, and of course, most of the rooms have private balconies. When we explore Greenland, the topography you see here is quite common. Large icebergs in the Arctic waters, mountain scenery, and in this particular day, a sandy landing. So you can see here we've landed by zodiac before we begin our hike. This is what we saw immediately as we got out of the zodiacs. We were thrilled to see polar bear footprints in the sand. So this is a great view of the glacier from on board the PONANT expedition vessel. But of course, we are expedition, so we hop into the zodiacs, and now we have a wonderful view of the glacier up close from the zodiac. There are so many different fjords and world famous bays in Greenland, including the icy Arm Fjord. It's picture perfect. On this particular day, I was out on deck alongside the expedition team with my binoculars, admiring the geology of this ancient land that was carved out millions of years ago during the Ice Age. We see a mother and her cubs safely resting high up on the side of the gorge. Look closely, and you can see what was probably her winter hibernation cave. While she was leisurely napping, I think it was her keen sense of smell that alerted her of our proximity on the ship. Maybe she did smell the freshly baked croissants that our French chef was preparing. The Greenland scenery is truly dramatic and very different. It's always changing with the light and the different fjords that we're exploring. Landscapes are not what you're expecting to see in the Arctic. This location is called Akugdleg. It's a little bit trickier to pronounce. Akugdleg. And you would never think this is in the Arctic. But let's look back out to the sea. So when we're looking back toward the water, now you can see the icebergs to remind us that we are in fact still in Greenland. On this particular day, we had a half-day hiking excursion. So guests disembarked the vessel at one location, hiked for a couple of hours to explore this landscape, learning about the geology and looking for wildflowers and enjoying the panoramic polar vistas before they joined us back on board. People ask me about the northern lights in the Arctic. Amazing twilights where for 6 hours the sunset is blending with the sunrise and creating incredible light. Amazing photographic opportunities. The ice constantly changes color with reflections, beautiful hues and soft lighting. Where sunset is blending with sunrise for almost 6 hours every night. So there's still a small chance to see the northern lights, Of course, the further north and the cooler the temperatures are, is the highest chance. Usually we see the lights very early in the morning, but the good news is if we do see lights, the captain will definitely make an announcement and wake guests up so they can see this phenomenon for themselves. The northern lights are caused when solar wind particles collide with the gases in the Earth's high atmosphere. This collision creates the dazzling explosion of colours. So as promised, I wanted to finish by sharing with you the ultimate ice explorer, Le Commandant Charcot, which joins the PONANT fleet and begins exploring the Arctic in 2021. With the ability to navigate through the ice floe and reach the geographical North Pole, as well as exploring Greenland's Northeast National Park. You can see in the map here where Spitsbergen is, and on our normal PONANT expeditions, we explore the edge of the ice floe. Now with this ice breaking capability, we can travel into the ice floe. We learnt about Le Commandant Charcot in depth during the introduction to PONANT and Fleet webinar. Of course, you're more than welcome to watch the recorded version, and I'll give you the link in this follow-up email. Just for the Arctic, I wanted to highlight the experiences your clients will enjoy. Obviously, as per a normal PONANT expedition, the Zodiac excursions with the expedition team are included, along with landings, walks, and guided hikes. And of course, the cultural encounters are always a highlight on the PONANT Arctic expeditions. With Le Commandant Charcot, the kayak excursions are included, as well as snowshoeing adventures, giving your clients a unique experience. We also include the electric snowmobile, as well as hot air balloon experiences. And this will certainly be a highlight for guests who are experiencing the geographical North Pole. Included ice fishing is certainly something unique, and of course the dog sledding, particularly popular in Greenland, is also included. When we're on the ice floe, we'll be using hovercraft instead of the Zodiacs. So of course this will be included when transferring our guests across the ice. Something that's really unique is the citizen science on board Le Commandant Charcot, where we have two laboratories, a wet and dry lab, with scientists doing research projects. Guests can participate out in the field, in the laboratory with the researchers, and the researchers will share their work with lectures in the theatre. So there's opportunity here for disembarking directly onto the ice and for excursions with the expedition team. But there's also plenty of areas where on the outer deck from your private balcony or from the heated spa pool across the aft of the vessel to also enjoy the polar vistas of the Arctic. I'm positive the highlight of Le Commandant Charcot will be reaching the geographical North Pole, where there are 3 departure dates in 2021. Another unique expedition is the incredible expedition of the Arctic, the Northwest Passage. So the world's first luxury ice explorer, Le Commandant Charcot, is due to begin exploring the Arctic from April 2021. Thank you once again for learning more about the Arctic. I will send you a follow-up email with links to the expeditions and some great videos for your digital media, along with this recorded webinar to share with your colleagues. Tomorrow, our destination focus is Japan and surrounding islands, with a special guest presenter and expedition leader, Rio Ichi. Thank you once again for today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.